Okay, now that we have finished the first 3 steps of installation, let's move on to upgrading the JDK. So the first thing we need to do is to download the right JDK. So we need to pick up the Linux x64 tar gzip version. I'm going to open the browser to a JDK download page as seen in this link. So it's asking me to upgrade. I'll do all those things later. Okay, so it's asking me to install the extension manager. Maybe that's worth trying. So let me see. As you can see that this is going to do ISIS and installing guest additions sort of helps me to bring the latest additions for the copy paste tool, which would be quite useful if I want to copy something. So this would ask my system to be restarted. Okay. So I can do that. So I can simply say system shutdown and then say restart. So that's going to restart the kernel. So I'll get back once the extension pack is done. So we wait for the services to go down, and then so what happens in this extension pack is it enables my mouse to be able to capture any of the actions and then bring it back to the Linux operating system. So this sort of helps me to do Control-C, Control-V operations in case I have any. Okay. So that's fine. And as you can see, it is basically bringing me back to the same kind of bookmarks that I started with in the first place. Okay, so that's okay. So my installation continues here, and what I'm trying to do here is to get the Java download done. So I'm going to look for the Java installation. In this case, paste it. Did I copy it in the first place? Okay. For some reason it's not working, so let me try it later. Okay. So for now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the browser and search for JDK8 download. It should say me. Okay. So accept all cookies, it's fine. Accept the license, it's fine. So I've got to look for x86 tar gzip. Oh no. I don't even know what I signed in for. Just give me a moment, let me recollect it. If I remember my username and password, as you can see, it asks me for the zip file, so I'm going to save this. So the delay was due to my login ID and password. I forgot that and I had to do a retry. Okay, so you can see that it is done. So I can say open containing folder. So this is the Linux that I need. So from here on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the JDK and upgrade my current version and so on and so forth. So I'm going to use a couple of terminal instructions. If you really are not interested in typing it, what you can do is you can copy it from the workshop installation instruction that was provided as supplement to this exercise. So first thing is I need to say sudo service to see which service is running. So Cloudera Okay, and then I can say SEM agent. So the first thing I can do is check the status of the service. So that should show this service is running well. Next job is to stop this service. So it's going to stop my SEM software configuration management agent. So similarly, I have another service, which is the SEM server. So I'm going to check the status as well. Sudo service Cloudera SEM. It's not the agent anymore, it's called the server. So I can check for status first. And I know it's running, so in that case I'm going to stop the service. So why am I doing this? I'm going to upgrade the configuration setup. So I better make sure that the Cloudera's other services are being currently not monitored, so that it's easy for me to tweak and then get into the Java version. And then, so in order for me to install the JDK via terminal, I need to first locate the installation instructions. So I'm assuming that the download has happened inside the home Cloudera downloads folder, which is fine, which is the default. And then I can look for the files there. So by default, if I say present working directory, it's only in this home Cloudera. So I can say cd downloads, okay, and then say ls, you will be able to see the zip file. Okay, so this is where exactly I have located my file. So what I have to do is I have to copy this file into the default user/Java. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say super user do cp copy. Okay, so JDK, you put a tab, it gets the right number, so that saves you time. /user/Java. So this should move your file to the user/Java. So you want to check this, you can say cd/ user/Java, and you say ls. You'll see that there's a default installation, JDK 1.7, and the newer version that you've copied. So now that you've copied the zip file, it's time that you look into the full details. In case you want to see if it is a zip file or executable, you can say ls -ltrh. This will give you the expanded details. So you can see this is a folder and this is a zip file. So what I'm going to do is next to unzip it. Okay, so how do I do that? I say sudo again. Tar is to unzip, and I'm going to use xvf flags to extract, verify, and of course also keep me updated of whatever is happening. So there are two JDKs, so it's getting confused. I'm going to pick the version 8 zip file here and use sudo tar. So as you can see, it unzips the whole set of instructions. Everything is done. So my next job is to say sudo move mv JDK 1.8 blah blah, whatever folder it has created, into Java 8. So this is sort of easier name for me to look at. So I just do this and see if this has gone through, ltrh as usual, ls. So you can see that it has created a folder called Java 8. It's good, right? So now let me show you what's the current version. So when I say Java -version, it's still going to point me to the 1.7. So that I have to change this, right? For this I have to change the kernel's profile. So how do I do that? I say sudo nano. Nano is the editor like vi. So I say #/.bash profile. Bash profile is the default profile that runs every time that I have to change something. So you've got to understand certain things about the sudo nano. If you use Control O, you can save the file. When you say Control X, you exit the file and all that. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to open it up. And you see the current Java home folder is not being set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the kernel to come down. So here I want to say introduce Java _ home. I'm going to change this. I'm going to say it's going to be /user/Java /Java 8. So that's how I named it, right? So I'm going to use that. The next thing is I need to put this in the path. So I say export Java _ home. The reason we use underscore is it's easy to type. See, when you're doing your caps, you say shift, right? Shift Java, then your dash becomes underscore home. So that's the reason most of us prefer to use underscore inside the path names. So you can see that there is this existing path, home, and bin. So I'm going to use the /user /java /java8 /bin. So this is the additional path I'm going to add prior to the existing path name. So then, of course, I go ahead and export the path. So you know that you've got to save this file, and to save this file, you say Control O, and to exit, write out. You see, write out is the same. You say Control O to save it, and you say Control X to get out of the kernel. Right? So Control X to it. So I'm going to say Control O, which saves my content. I'm fine with the same file. I just write it. Then I'll say Control X, that gets me out of the shell. So that's fine. So the next thing is to execute this. So I'm going to say jar tilde /dot/bash underscore profile. Oh, I got to give a gap between the shell executor and the file name. What did I do wrong? Oh man. Oh gosh. Many of you are going to do the same thing that I did, like a stupid, as you know, Linux, particularly Nano Editor, is case sensitive. So I got to cut the blank spaces that I've given here. Yeah, so that was my problem. So I say Control O to save it, and Control X to come out, and then now I should be able to run the bash file. Clear. Great. So if I look at -java version as of now, you can see that it's going to point me to the right version, which is number 8 that I've just now installed. And if I want to see what's the version of the Java home that I've done, now all I have to do is echo $java_home. Okay. So that also points me to the 8. So that's pretty much done. So what I can do is I can go and change the content inside the Cloudera SCM manager as well. So I can either use the Nano editor or use the same VI editor. If you're good with VI, you can go ahead and use the VI. So I'm going to say sudo nano. So it's going to be under the etc d4. Okay, so Cloudera SCM server. Okay, so that should open up the file. So if you come into the Java options, these are startup options, so that's fine. I'm going to keep all of them the same. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say export Java home, right? So I'm going to say export Java_home. I shouldn't do the same mistake that I did last time. /user /java/java8. So this should set up. So Control O to save the file, Control X to come out. So now that I have changed these values, I can start the server and start the agent. So I'm going to go back and say sudo service Cloudera SCM server. So that's the service I want to see, status. So this is stopped. So I'm going to say instead of server, I want to see if the agent is stopped as well. So both of them are stopped. So I'm going to start the server first. So that is started. Then I'm going to start the agent next. So your arrow key usually brings back your previous command. You can use that too. So you don't have to type every time the full command set. So okay, so everything seems fine. So it's time that I go back to the browser here, start the Cloudera manager. So I think it only asks you for the login for the first time. The subsequent time it knows it has to use Cloudera and Cloudera. In case it asks you, you can just use the default and the cluster would have started. Okay. So the next thing you got to do is to set this Java virtual machine into the startup host. So I'm going to remember the login, log in again. So that should get you to this page. So pick on the horse, okay, and then I think picking on the all horse should help you to do that. Okay? So that gets you to the Cloudera menu here. So normally the status is good health and all that. Okay? So you have to come down to the selection of the IP address. Just select the quick error mission. So you can see that it starts up a big set of instructions, starting with the server status and all that. So click on the configuration page of that. And then this is where you have to put in your Java home name, so /user/Java/Java page. So this is the recent version of Java. And make sure you say change server, save the changes. So user Java 8 should be recorded inside. And what you're going to do is you've got to come back to your Cloudera Manager page, which is the Cloudera Manager bookmark. You select that. What we're going to do is we're going to restart the services here. So scroll down this list and say restart all the services. So this time when the server restarts, it picks up the recent JDK 1.8 and then uses that JVM as the default. So give it some time so that all the services starts, and you should be able to see the message all services successfully started. So then we are ready to set up the new configuration. So in order for the machine's new configuration to work, you may have to reboot the machine. So let's first wait for the services to get restarted, then we'll reboot the machine. I did not configure any TLS, so in case you have a certificate that has got to do with the security, you have to copy the security version from the JRE lib into this security. Okay, so let's see how it is done. So while this is restarting the server, I'm going to close this terminal and open another one. Okay, so you know that there is this series/user/Java. Okay, so two versions here if you see. So you can say ls mine is JDK 1.7 dot JDK 1.7 and 0. Why is it not picking up? Okay. Oh, the slash is wrong. Okay, so JDK 1.7 tab. Okay, so CD space JRE, CD space libraries, CD space security. So ls. So do you see any securities here? So JS security. No, not much. Okay, so in case you have that, which usually is under the file name JSSECA search. So there's no JSS here. Search means security. Copy is not needed. So that's fine. So I'm going to give it a few minutes for the server to be started. As you can see in the background, all the services are getting green. That basically means that the cluster is in a healthy state and all the services that's necessary is started. Right? So I'll give it some time. When the services start, we will continue this thing. It's done. So now that all the services is successfully run, and I see all the green state for the cluster to be healthy, the next thing I need to do is to reboot the server. I start the terminal, and all I got to do is just say sudo reboot. So that will restart the machine. It will restart all the servers and so on and so forth. One thing I can do is I can delete the previous installation by saying sudo rmdir and then proceed with Spark2 installation. So while this is restarting, you can see that the share clipboard is disabled. So I'm going to make it bidirectional so that I can share from both OS. I'm also going to make it bidirectional so that I can drag and drop files. So that's good enough. Okay, I don't have to share folders. So now that the server has started and everything seems to be running perfectly okay, I'm going to close tabs. I'm going to start a terminal. So this time my job is to remove the old directory. So I'll say sudo rm /user /java JDK 1.8. I think I'll do the rmdir first. dir recursively /user /java JDK 1.7. No, let's use either. Never mind. We can figure it out later. So you can use the sudo rights to delete the folder if you think it is very necessary. I'm not going to waste time on that. So let's start installing the Spark2 version. So the next URL I need to use in order for me to get the Spark is to get the Spark2 CST Cloudera. There's two ways. Either I open a browser and locate that using Google. You can just say Spark2, it's called CDS download. That should usually get me to the page. But alternatively, what I can do is I can just pick the different connecting versions. So you can see these are the CDS available. So you can see that which version I would like to use, right? So these are existing releases that are available. So I'm going to pick 2.24 and then get the file downloaded. Okay, so I got to pick the right file and then save them. So this usually tells me all the different versions that are available. So I'm going to the different parcels. Too many of them. So let me go by. Oh, I'm confused. Which one do I take? Senior, Jesse, EL7, VZ. Let me check and get back. So this URL is wrong. I went into picking the right version of Debian, which is not necessary. In this case, I just need this parcel, which is the jar file. So I click on that. You can see that it gives me the Cloudera package. So I'm going to save that. Okay, so yeah, it's very fast. It's downloaded. So I can proceed with the other commands. So what I got to do is I got to log into the Cloudera manager, place the CST file, and the next thing is I have to restart the services. So I'm going to show you how to do that one by one. Okay. Continue. I think I went into a slightly older version of CDS. So we're going to pick the 2.4, right? So we need to pick the right documentation as well. So I'm just picking Cloudera's documentation, Spark2. And this gives you an overall compatibility. You need to have at least 510. Ours is 513, so which is pretty much good for us to install Spark4. So if you look into the notes, there is this version and packaging and download page. You click on that. You have various versions. So what we did initially was we used the 2.2. So now I'm going to move into 2.4 release 2. So I'm going to click on this jar file. I'm going to save on this one as well. Okay. So that is the jar file. So now what happens to the installation? So if you click on installing and upgrading CDS, it gives you the complete set of installation for you to be able to run it. But the thing is, it's a bit cryptic, so I'm going to decipher it for you. So the first line, as it says, check all the software prerequisites. If it is satisfied, you can go ahead. So if you want to check the requirements, just select the link, and you can see that it maps to the CDH versions. In case you want to use 2.4 release 2, you need at least 5.10 or higher versions. Since ours is 5.13, I think this requirement is satisfied, so we are up with first step. The second thing is to install the CDS-powered Spark service descriptor into the Cloudera manager. In order for us to do that, you have to download the CDS, which is what we have just now done. And the next thing is to log into the Cloudera's manager and copy the CDS-powered Apache descriptor into the location configured for service description file. So in order to see what's the location for CDS descriptor file, you can see that all the CSD files need to be put into the folder called /opt Cloudera CSD. And that doesn't finish the work. You may also have to give in some user rights. So you have to make sure that the user Cloudera SEM gets the full file access rights and ownership. And not just the ownership, the modified permission rights also must be 644. So let's see how to do that first. So that's what this is also trying to say. Make sure that you log into Cloudera Manager and then copy the file into the proper location. So I'm going to teach you how to do that using a command prompt so that it's easy. So the first thing we need to do is to look at the downloads folder. So you can see you've got 2 jar files. I'm going to remove the Cloudera 2. I'm going to keep Cloudera 2.2.0, Cloudera 4 jar. So that should be good enough, right? Hopefully that's the right one. Okay, so yeah, that's the one. So I'm going to go ahead and then open a command shell here. Okay, so this is Cloudera home. So when I say cd downloads, it should take me to the folder where we have the Spark. So if you want to see the lights, when you say LTRH, you can see that it is pointing me to the Cloudera. So I'll use a super user command. I'll say cp. I want to copy the Spark file to /opt Cloudera -csd. So if you want to know how I got this file name, you know where I checked in, right? So I went into the folder rights, location configured. So I opened it and I know that the CSD files are to be put inside opt Cloudera CSD. That's how I figured it out. So I moved it. So the first thing I do is I make a copy of it. So next thing is to change to this directory, opt Cloudera SED, say ls. ls won't give me the full details, so I'm going to say full rights. So you can see that the username is right now root. So that's not okay, right? So you need to be able to change user rights, sudo, right, chown, and what's the user that I should be changing to? So this is the username. So I'm going to copy this user in, copy, bring it back to the terminal, chown, paste. So maybe I should say 644. Just a minute. Okay, you know what time is? This is basically the file name, so I should put in the file name, otherwise it doesn't change rights. I cannot give 644 because that's modify user rights. I first change the owner. So if I want to see whether the owner name has changed, yeah, how the owner name has changed. Now what I do is I say chmod, right? This time it's not about ownership anymore. So I can say chmod, okay? And 644 and then right. Okay, so yeah, now you can see that the rights has changed to 644. Which is good. Right? Okay, so that's pretty much what I have to do. And then what I do is I go to restart, right? So I can say service Cloudera SCM server. Great. I think I won't have the right, so I should say sudo. So that should restart the server. Okay. So when this is done, what I'll be able to do is to go to admin console and then see if the parcel repository is being added, because whatever I put inside the CDS, the Cloudera manager must be able to automatically pick that up. Okay, so let's verify if that is the case. Okay, so we should be able to go to the Cloudera manager. So I'm going to close this browser just in case to be sure. Okay, so I'm going to start again. Okay, so Cloudera manager. Agree. Login. Okay, so I go to the parcel, and then what I got to do is to click on the configuration. It gets me to the parcel settings. Okay, so one thing I got to check is if the retain download parcel files is being checked. Yeah, that's the case. Okay, so what I got to do is I got to remove this, right, and let the download parcels be kept in agents after being unpacked. Okay, that's fine. That's okay, but I do not want to validate because sometimes there may be mismatch, and I want to make sure that CDH doesn't make a big fuss about it. So what I'll do is I'll uncheck that, and I'm saying I know what I'm doing, so when I install the Spark2, you don't have to go and validate. Okay, so once I do that, I save the changes. So that's done. The next job is to go and see if the parcels have been downloaded properly. So when I select the Cloudera remote control, so you can see that you'll have Spark2. Okay, so I can download that. This is Spark1, this is Spark2, so the one that I've recently added. So I'll say download, and I can also see that I have picked up the CDH5, which is the recent one. So this is also remotely available. I'm going to say go and download that as well, because I want to make sure that I get the latest patches updated. Right? So wait for this to be downloaded. Once it is downloaded, you can distribute it and activate it. So there are 2 steps after the download is over. So I'm going to stop here and come back when the download is complete. So folks, there was a long download, and the downloads are done. So after the download is done, you will see that it gets to the next stage, which is distribute. So I'm going to select distribute for both case, and of course when the distribute is over, it's going to ask for activation. So then I got to go through activation step as well. So I'm going to stop here, wait for the distribution to be over, then I'll come back and then show you the activator as well. Okay. So that was fast. CDH is distributing faster, and then of course very closely followed by Spark2. I pause here and then come back when distribution is done. So now that it is distributed, you can see that the next state looking up is activate. So I'm going to activate the product. And the same for Spark2. So we'll give it some more time for the activation process to be over. And then we proceed with further steps. Okay, so the next thing is to add services. So now that it is all activated, that's fine. So I'm going to close this window and open up our browser again. Okay. So what happens is I go to Cloudera Manager. I log in, and many of it is in the partial state. So what I'll do is I'll put this down, all services down, stop. So this is going to take some time to stop the services. I need to do this because the next step here is to add Spark2. So when I want to do that, I have to remove one of the old services, which is Spark1, and then again add it to Spark2 service. So what do? I basically the service, it's going to ask me to pick dependency. I'll pick the dependency for high version. Okay. So it's fine. So I'm going to next thing is delete. Okay. Configure service dependency. Okay. So you see in this step, it's asking me whether the Spark Onion service is dependent in the Spark server. So basically, this is highest dependency. So for now, I'm going to say no, none. Okay. So Spark Onion service high is not dependent on anything as of now. So I'll say save changes. Okay. So this you can see that is out. Okay. So can delete the service. I do not want Spark 1. It's gone. So the next thing I'm going to do is add service. Okay. So when I say add service, you can see inside the list of service, I've got Spark, Spark Standalone, Spark2. Okay. So all the binaries are included. So I'm going to say continue. So I'm stopping here so that I could take a screenshot of this. So I have not put that currently into my documentation, so I thought I'll add it. Okay, so that will help me to picture what I'm going to do. So just hold on. Sorry for the trouble here. So I want to say Spark2, which is fine. And then I'm going to say continue. So here is where the interesting part happens. Okay, so there's HDFS plus Hive plus Yarn, and HDFS is missing Hive. So I think I'm going to choose Hive. Okay, so the reason is it allows me to be able to connect to older versions of Spark in case. Okay, so that's the reason I'm taking a screenshot of this as well. So the rest of the steps are pretty straightforward. Okay, so it's going to ask me to select a host. The only host that I have is the pseudo cluster. The same way here, the only host I have is the pseudo cluster, which is quick start. So I'm going to pick that for history server. I'm going to pick that for gateway as well. I continue to my next page. So they're going to ask me for any other extra security settings. I'm not going to do anything especially for security in this course. So I'm going to just go ahead. So you can see that it goes through the step of ensuring everything is fine. It's restarting the servers. So you can see that it goes in the reverse order. It starts the monitoring, the memory, the compute cluster, then the query. Then of course there are a few set of comments that is there to validate the Spark2's working. And then finally it starts the Spark2 setup. So that's pretty much what I have to test. And then you can see that the Spark2 keeps running. And then that's pretty much about it. Okay. You should be able to choose Spark2 for running after this. It's going to take a couple of minutes. Okay, so maybe I will stop here and then come back when everything is successfully executed. So that should get Spark2 running. So as you can see here, all the installation has gone through. The Spark has successfully started. So I'm fine. Okay, so the next thing is some of the services may not be properly running. Okay, so just to make sure that I have everything done and tested, I'm going to close the terminal. Anything else that I have, and then restart the service as I usually do. And then probably we'll be able to run the Spark2 in the shell, and that should finish the complete Spark2 upgrade, right? So I'll again pause the video here and come back when the services have started successfully to just go ahead and, wow, that's pretty fast. So the cluster closes in 11 seconds, but I think it takes at least 2 to 3 minutes to start. So I'm going to come back. So yeah, so sorry, it took 2 to 3 minutes, so that's why I'll stop and not bore you. So now that the services have started and everything is running fine, the next job is to see if Spark2 job is being submitted. So all I'll do is I open a terminal, I type in Spark2-shell, so that should start my Spark. Okay, so yeah, you can see that it has started the Spark context. So it's creating a job application container ID for me. That's great. So let me see if there is a Spark context created. Yes, great. So yeah, it's working. So I can put in any Scala statement here, start doing, where df is equal to at the command level, but that's going to be very unproductive. So later we are going to see how to use Scala ID to create much more faster programs, right? So Control-T to break the shell, get out, clear the screen, and voila, we are done with installation of Spark with version 2.4 here. So all that is good. The next part of it is to upgrade your Eclipse version to a Scala IDE first, and then of course we will install the SBT tools. So I think that's almost 45 minutes here. I'm going to break this, save this file as part 2, and my part 3 is going to focus on the next 2 steps. So what we have done so far is we changed this JVM to JDK, so this is done. Next thing what we did is we upgraded the Spark framework, and of course we tested it in the shell, right? So test Spark to the shell, and that was working. So it's fine. So what is remaining is basically install Scala ID, Scala build tool, and of course do a few coding to see if your code, the build tool works, the Scala works, and all that. So that should be the last part. So I'm going to make this as video number part 3. Okay, so that should complete the full installation set. So thank you for listening. Stay tuned to part 3 if you're keen on seeing what are the administrative commands that go inside